Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Does this work? Okay. Good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. If you could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business tonight is to elect a moderator. So I'd like to take nominations from the floor. See, who's this? Second. Thank you, Mr. Deacon. Are there any other nominations for moderator? Seeing none, I close nominations. Can I have a show of hands on the vote for Mr. Stockmeyer as moderator? That looks to be unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Stockmeyer, you've been nominated and elected moderator of the budget process. If you raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. Do you, William Stockmeyer, swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Maine, so long as you shall continue to be a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent on you as moderator of the Maine School Administrative District No. 6 budget meeting on July 30th, 2020, according to the Constitution of the laws of the state of Maine?
I do.
So before Mr. Stockmeyer moderates the process, we have just a few words to talk a little bit about the budget for somebody who's not been involved in the process as much, so you can help understand as we go through and vote on each article. But I want to thank all of you for attending this important meeting, budget validation meeting tonight. You will hear some important information about the 2021 school year budget and how our focus is on improving teaching and learning for all students. We know that strong communities, schools attract homeowners and new businesses to our community. In order to maintain programs and services for students, we need to adjust how dollars are allocated, as well as consider how new dollars will advance the district's mission of helping all students reach their full potential. As you review the focus on finance, I want to draw your attention to my budget message. Specifically, in paragraph number 1, I highlight that 77.6% of our budget is related to people, and in this business, people are very important. Considering the fact that I would also like you to consider that MSAD6 pupil per pupil allocation is $13,467.31, or $1,101.60 below state average. We have 5 districts below state average, and when compared with districts that are on the top of the list in York County, we allocate $6,322.71 less per student. These are staggering numbers by themselves, but I would like you to put that into perspective and compare us with any other school and the opportunities that we provide students to support them to reach their full potential. The MSAD6 general fund budget for the past 9 years has on average increased 2.18%, with a local assessment increase on average of 3.44%. I believe that the support of the school board, the contributions of the BAC in developing a budget, our fiscal responsibility is visible, and we can easily be characterized as fiscally responsible. With a staff second to none, who is committed to the students of MS86, we have redefined normal and reallocated tax dollars to create supports for our students before asking for additional funding. Let me highlight some of those examples. Concerns the last 2 years about increasing SRO, School Resource Officer Services, to the middle school at a projected cost of $70,000 plus. This year, we met with the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department, the building administrators, to develop a plan that would share the SRO between the high school and the middle school. The data we collect from that solution will support our decisions about next steps or the need for additional budget dollars. With the increasing concerns with the social and emotional needs of students, there has been a call for additional counseling services in our school. In the 2020-21 budget, we did add an additional social worker to work at the elementary level. But that addition of one position will now provide much better services for 4 of the elementary schools. In addition, the school counselors have agreed to work on a district level to support student needs. This means that a school counselor at one school will be willing to move around the district to schools other than where they are initially assigned to help our students in need. Again, the information that we will gather from this work will inform our decisions moving forward before we simply ask for additional budget dollars. To provide additional support for building administration and ensuring that we have adequately and equitably moved K-12 programs and services, we are adding a second person in the curriculum department with no increase to the budget or taxes. Again, we are using federal title funds and dollars already allocated to the department to establish this necessary resource for improved teaching and learning. For those of you who are thinking that the other shoe will drop in a year or two and it will increase taxes, I say hold on and listen. Utilizing current federal title funds, we are currently contracting with services outside of our district, and in the coming year, we will be able to divert over $50,000 of consultant fees to without additional budget burden to a person employed by MSAD6. That figure will double the following year as we reallocate those dollars to a MSAD6 employee and not to an outside contractor. We have much to be proud of, and I hope that I have provided you with important information about how the district is very mindful about the impact to stakeholders as it does everything that it can do to help the students reach their full potential without breaking the backs of our community. In closing, I would like to direct your attention to page 3 for your review of the great happenings in our schools. At each level, we have implemented new and innovative programs that support success for all, and we have accomplished all of that in a fiscally responsible manner. Also, on page 7, you will find the proud facts about our district that I hope that all of you review. We have much to be proud of in MSAD6, and with your continued support of the school budget, we will continue to provide many opportunities for our students. It is the collective work of our communities that make Bonnie Eagle different from others, and together with our BE Pride, we will provide opportunities for all students to reach their full potential and become productive citizens. Thank you.
Yes. I'm going to show you the numbers that Mr. Penna just talked about. I won't take a lot of time, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. We have a budget advisory committee that works with the superintendent and the administrators each year to sort of develop a budget that will go to the superintendent for the superintendent to revise and then take to the full board for their approval, and ultimately will become the budget that is voted here at the district budget meeting. This year, the budget advisory committee passed a resolution that set a target that the budget would impact taxes no more than 3.98%. In that the budget, the general fund budget, would not increase by more than 2.88%. Is this any better? Good. When the superintendent received the budget, he made some minor changes in it. One of the things that he did was to make sure that we carried forward a little bit more money to help mitigate the increase in the taxes. And that helped us lower the tax rate from 3.98% down to 3.42%. I wanted to show you the actual numbers for the per pupil expenditures for those districts around us. And you can see that state average was what Mr. Penna said at 14.5, and we're at 13.4. And we've consistently been below the state average for a number of years. This year we're at 1,100 and a little bit of change under the state average. If we were to spend at the state average, we would have to add 3.9 million to the local share of the budget. If we were to spend at what York School District spends, we would have to increase our local share by 80%, or $22 million, to spend the same amount that York School System spends. And when you look at this slide, it actually shows in the blue that we have, since 2005-06, we have been under state average every year. And actually the spread between state average and where we are moving forward to 2020-21 is even greater than it was last year. When we compare our expenditures to the rest of state average in each of the 11 cost centers, what you'll see is that there are only a few that we are above state average in. Student and staff support, Article 5, we're above state average because we have a real commitment to bring technology to the students. And that's where most of the technology money is. Transportation and buses, we run one of the largest bus fleets in the state of Maine, and obviously that costs a lot of money. Buses, for instance, since I've been here, have increased from probably around 75,000 to 110,000. When you're running 50 buses, that's a lot of money invested. And facilities, we have a full-blown facility staff that can build buildings and do all kinds of things. So we have much more in the way of maintenance of plant than most school districts in the state have. And when we look at general purpose aid, and this is one of the numbers that Paul brought up, the average increase over the last 9 years has been 0.77% per year increase in state aid. And you can see from the graph that state aid goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, and that's very hard when you're trying to manage 700 plus people whose wages don't go up or down, up and down. In order for us to be able to balance the budget and try to mitigate increases, or at least an escalation and a de-escalation of taxes, you have to manage everything in the budget, including the fund balance. And when you look at our general fund budget increases, the average increase has been, over the last 9 years, 2.18% per year. Now, salaries and wages, being 77.6% of the total budget, doesn't give us much area in the budget to cut or reduce or make more efficient without touching people. And unfortunately, when almost 78% of your budget is tied up in personnel costs, it's hard to maintain a 2.18% increase when salaries go up on average 3% per year and benefits may go up as much as 8 or 10% per year. And then when you look at local assessments, we've really tried hard to keep a lid on local assessments as much as we could, and to try to not have a roller coaster increase, decrease in local assessments. And you can see we've been pretty good at keeping the local assessments to around 3.5% over the 9 years. Last 9 years, the average has been 3.44%. The increase for this coming year is 3.42%. One of the things that I think we have to really be aware of is the fact that this isn't the hardest year. The next year, the year after, and maybe the year after that may be more difficult for us than this year. And that's because the state is running about a $1.2 billion hole in their revenue projections. Now, it may not be that bad when it finally comes up, but we know that the state is going to have a difficult time at maintaining our subsidy over the next few years. So I'm looking at the distinct possibility that our local shares are going to have to go up, even if our actual expenditures go down. I put the following slide in because it's just kind of an interesting to see what kind of an impact that COVID-19 has had on school districts nationwide. The Association of School Business Officials and the School Superintendents Association developed a kind of an estimate of what it would cost an average school system to bring kids back safely after the pandemic that we've experienced in the last 4 months. And this average school system was just about us. It was 3,659 kids, 8 school buildings, 183 classrooms, 329 staff, 40 school buses. And what they came up with is this chart that actually shows that the additional impact of what it will cost to reopen schools because of the COVID-19 pandemic would be on average $1,778,000. We certainly don't have that within the general fund budget. So when we look at the budget itself, like I said, the budget increase is 2.88%. The tax increase is 3.42%. In order to bring it down to that level of 3.42%, we had to cut $1,667,804 out of the budget that we initially proposed in January. That included the elimination of 8 positions. In the 8 positions plus the cost of new hires, retirements, and the savings for those 2 areas, meant that we were able to reduce the salary and benefit lines in the budget by $673,000. And this is a list of all the areas that we cut that add up to $1,667,000. And what we did for COVID-19 is we included a contingency account of $500,000 in order for us to have money available for PPE and other expenses that we would occur during the course of the beginning of the summer in order for us to make sure that the buildings and all the staff and students are safe to return in August. There are two other things within, actually three areas in the budget that aren't part of the baseline budget. We have an area where we look at special requests, instructional requests. And Paul talked about these, and initially he proposed $300,000 worth of new requests that were instructional or academic related. And as we went through the process, we cut $182,000 out of those requests and approved $118,000 to move forward. And he mentioned those requests. So the amount that the new requests impact the budget is $118,000. We also had requests for capital improvements, and the capital requests totaled $429,500, and we cut them all. But we will use some of the money in our capital reserve account to do three of the most important projects that we need to accomplish. One is a roof replacement at the high school and domestic hot water replacement at Buxton Center and a water main replacement at Georgie Jack. And those will come out of either the capital reserve or the operating budget. And we also have requests for new capital lease purchases. We had initially asked for 5 buses. We've cut that back to 1. Every 4 years, we do a technology lease so that we make sure that we upgrade our technology on a continuing basis so that it doesn't become obsolete. That is usually a $500,000 lease purchase, and we've cut that down to $435,000. And we also have a request for a facility lease to replace some of our aging vehicles. As a matter of fact, 2 of our major vehicles have died in the last month. And we're also looking at the fact that we have 3 plow trucks, relatively big plow trucks, that are on their last legs, and we have to replace them before winter, or we probably, if we have a winter, it will be difficult for us to remove snow. So what we did in this area is the initial request was for $260,000, and we're budgeting $149,000. So when we look at this chart, local assessments and state subsidy are the major revenue streams in our budget. Local assessments, 54.4%, state subsidy, 42.6%, and together, that's 97% of all of our revenues. When we look at where the money comes from, Standish contributes 37.9 this year, Hollis 16.7, Buxton 28.2, Leamington 11.7, and Fry Island 5.5. When we look at what our general fund tax assessments are, the total average increase for the district is 3.42 for the general fund budget. For each of the towns, that ranges anywhere from a low of 1.17% for Fry Island to a high of 4.98% for Hollis. And those numbers are based on changes in state valuation, therefore changes in the percentage that each town is obligated to contribute. If you look at what the general fund budget impacts a $200,000 property on average is $65 to $70 per year, and the figure does not include school nutrition and adult ed, which are in Articles 18 and 19. And these are the amounts. So when you look at the budget by object category, you can see that 77.6% is in salaries and benefits. That's the major part of our budget. The next biggest area is recurring costs, which are fixed costs, things that we have to do each year. They don't include any people. Those are just fuel, oil, insurance, things that we have to do. And this is the budget by category when you look at the cuts in each of the areas and what we are proposing. And we vote on each of those articles in a little bit different format. This is by category, and we have to vote by cost center, and that's according to the state law. And when you look at our budget by article, which is by cost center, you can see the figures are as follows. The total budget, which is a 2.88% increase, is $51,264,940. And that is $1,434,440 more than last year. And that's a 2.88%. Any questions?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Bill. I'll try to see if I can adjust this microphone so it picks up the sound underneath this mask. Thank you for coming out tonight. Obviously, we're going to try to do this in as expedited a fashion as possible in the interest of both safety and perceptions of safety on everyone's part. We have 2 rooms tonight because we're limited to the number of people per room. We have a deputy moderator, Susan Wiedner, who I've sworn in to call the voting results in the other room. The other room can hear us, and we can hear them when they speak into the microphone available. I've waived the swearing in of the ballot clerks. We're not really going to need the ballot clerks to count votes for reasons that I'll explain when necessary. And as I say, we're going to expedite things. I'm going to waive the reading of each article. I'm going to announce the article. I'm going to give the dollar amount. I'm going to ask for a motion on the article as written, okay? So if you would not mind making that motion, just I move the article as written, and I'll ask for a second. That will get it on the floor. If you have something extremely important to persuade the meeting or to amend, you're welcome to speak. I'd really ask that everybody be mindful of the sentiment of the room to pass versus debate the budget, to try to keep things as expedited as possible. I think we all share that responsibility. Okay, so with that being said, Article 1, the first 11 articles are the expenditure side of the budget. We will do those first. When I call for a vote, I will ask for you to say aye or nay and raise your hands. The people in the other room, please do the same, and then I will ask the deputy moderator in the other room if it passed in the other room. We'll know if it passed in this room, and we'll call it, and if we need to have more detailed counting of votes, we will. Usually that's not necessary, but we will see. Okay, So Article 1 is the first expenditure category. It's regular instruction. The recommended amount is $20,708,254. Does anyone move the article as written? I move the article as presented. Thank you. A second? I move a second. Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion or debate or amendment? Particularly in the other room, if you have something to say or to amend, you should be ready to get right to the microphone or start to move there in advance, because we are going to move pretty quickly through this. I don't want to cut you off. So if anyone is cut off, Susan will let me know, and then we'll backtrack a little bit. Okay, I don't see any debate or discussion, so we're going to move right to a vote. All in favor of Article 1, please say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Thank you. All opposed, say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan, what was the result in the other room? Passed or failed? Passed? Passed. Thank you. It passed in this room. Article 1 carries. Article 2 is special education. The dollar amount is $8,870,466. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Article 2 is on the floor. Any discussion, debate, amendment? I'm going to wait a couple extra beats for the other room. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed, say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan? Passes. Passes in this room. Article 2 carries. Article 3, the category of expenditure is career and technical education. The recommended amount is $10,000. Do I have a motion? A second? Thank you. Article 3 is on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan? Once more?
Passes.
Thank you. Passes in this room. Article 3 carries. Article 4 is other instruction. The dollar amount is $715,445. Do I have a motion on Article 4? Do I have a second? It's on the floor. Sir, I recognize you. If you state your name and town you're from, come right up to the mic.
Peter Burns, Town of Buxton. I want to amend the article. Do I give my reasoning now or after?
Well, why don't you make your motion first? We'll see if there's a second.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the article and reduce the cost by $100,000 to make the article $615,445.
So we have a motion to amend Article 4 downward by $100,000. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Is there a second for that amendment? It's been seconded. And I recognize you. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
I'm concerned about most of this article. It's explanatory of what it entails, but part of it is for sports, and I don't believe we haven't received from the state yet what category this county or this school district is going to be in. We suspect it's going to be yellow. There may be one in red, which may be Cumberland, which has the worst virus, the coronavirus. In this district, there's been 54 coronavirus cases confirmed in the 4 towns: Leamington, Buxton, Standish, and Hollis. In the York and Cumberland cases, York has had 641, Cumberland 2,032, for a total of 2,673 confirmed cases in the 2 counties. The 54 cases that we have accounts to 2% of those cases. I am concerned, as I saw a picture in yesterday's paper in the sports section of a football clinic at Fitzpatrick School in Portland, of which there were multiple schools, including Bonnie Eagle, and there were 9 or 10 people in the picture with an instructor, it looked like. None of them socially distancing, none of them wearing masks, in violation of what the Dr. Shah and the governor has requested. I'm concerned that if we have any sports up until January, that the the probability of somebody, whether it be in the district or outside the district, that may come down with it and pass it on to someone in this district, and with the request that anyone that could drive to school, the high school, to do so to relieve the busing situation, I suspect there will be individuals that will want to offer a ride with their friends, so there may be 2 or 3 or 4 people of high school age in a vehicle coming to school. If one person gets it, then it'll come into the school or come to the parents or staff of the school. I'm very concerned about that, and I'm concerned because there's a lot of parents that are apprehensive about allowing their students to come to school on the two on, two off, whatever the plan is going to be, if we're allowed the yellow plan. And if it gets into one school, if me as a parent, if I had a young child, I would be thinking very seriously whether I wanted that child to continue going to school. The risks of the virus getting into the school is way too high to allow sports or any extracurricular activity to take place until at least January. That's my feeling, and that's why I'm asking to reduce this, to show the severity of the issue that the community has.
Thank you for your amendment. Thank you for explaining it. What I propose to do is to, I've already got someone in this room ready to, I gather, respond. Unless there's an objection after that, I'm going to move to a vote on the amendment, unless someone really feels they have something critical to say. Okay? Sir, would you state your name and which town you're from?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trevor Hustis from Hollis. I want to thank Mr. Burns for his amendment. I do want to point out that depending on the vote of this meeting and of the budget validation referendum on August 11th, if we go ahead and vote for this full amount, and in the instance we do not hold sports, any remaining amount not expended in our stipends, the board can decide to carry that forward into the next year to offset the future tax increases, which, as Mr. Brockman did mention in his presentation, depending on the state's financial forecasts, could be quite devastating, a 6.5% to 7% tax increase. If we can do all we can to mitigate that moving forward, I think that's the wise path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Susan, is anyone itching to speak in the other room, or do you think we can move to a vote?
We can move to a vote.
All right, so we're voting on the amendment. That means a yes vote means you're in favor of the amendment, which is to reduce the article by $100,000. So if you want to reduce the article by $100,000, you're going to vote yes. If you're against the amendment, you're going to vote no. All right? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye and raise your cards or hands. Thank you. All opposed, please say nay and raise your hands. Okay. Susan, was it aye or nay in the other room?
Nay.
Okay, the amendment fails. We're back to the main article, which is $715,445. I think we're ready to vote on that, so I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan, did it pass or fail in the other room?
Passes.
Passes in this room. Article 4 carries. Article 5 is student and staff support. The dollar amount is $5,071,435. Do I have a motion on Article 5? And a second? Second, thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Susan, we ready to vote in the other room? Is that a yes?
Yes, ready to vote.
Okay, let's move to a vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Thank you. All opposed, please say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Did it pass, Susan, in your room?
Yes, passes.
Passes here too. Article 5 carries. Article 6, System Administration, the dollar amount is $1,307,077. Do I have a motion and a second? Second? Thank you. I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Thank you. All opposed, say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan, did it carry in the other room?
Yes, it carries.
Carried here, so Article 6 carries. Article 7 is the school administration expenditure category. Remember, we're still on the expenditure side of the budget. The dollar amount for Article 7 is $2,478,418. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. We have a second. Any discussion? So we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass?
Passes.
Passes in this room. Article 7 carries. Article 8, Transportation and Buses. The dollar amount is $3,622,015. Do I have a motion? I move Article 8 as presented. And a second. All right. Article 8 is on the floor. Are we ready to vote? Okay, we're going to move to a vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Thank you. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here too. Article 8 carries. Article 9 is facilities maintenance. The dollar amount is $6,429,580. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Thank you. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here too. Article 9 carries. Article 10 is debt service and other commitments. The dollar amount is $2,036,500. Do I have a motion? I move Article 10 as written. Second? Okay, this is debt service, so we're going to move right to a vote unless there's an objection. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Did it carry in your room, Susan?
It carries.
Carries in this room, so Article 10 passes. The last expenditure article is all other expenditures. The dollar amount is $15,750. Do I have a motion? I move Article 11 as written. And a second? Thank you. Article 11 is on the floor. I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor say aye and raise your cards. Hands. Thank you. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Thank you. Susan, did it carry in your room?
It carries.
And it carries in this room. Article 11 carries. Okay, so now we're on to the revenue side of the budget. As Bill mentioned, most of your revenue comes from state subsidy, local tax assessments, and a small amount of miscellaneous revenues. If you're really fast with a calculator, what you see here does not add up to the total. That's because that small amount of miscellaneous revenues is not part of what you vote on. But you'll have to trust us, and Bill's done this for a few years, so they do add up, okay? The other tricky thing about this is if you look at Article 12, which is where you get your state matching dollars, okay, the amount raised per town is shown in the right-hand column. The amount of the state subsidy is the mathematical difference between the two columns. It's not the amount in the left-hand column. It's the mathematical difference, and this is the required form for this article required by the legislature. Okay, so the state subsidy is the difference between the total allocation, which is $43,324,668.89 in bold in the left-hand column, and the amount raised in the right-hand column, which is $21,641,417, or approximately $22 million, roughly speaking, is the state subsidy that you qualify for if you raise the tax amount. So that's that article. The total amount to be raised for Article 12 is $21,641,417 to receive the state subsidy that I just described. Do I have a motion on Article 12? Move Article 12 is written. And a second? Thank you. Now, all of the expenditure articles passed. It is within, it's up to this meeting to amend the revenue articles, but logically, one would think that if you approve the expenditure side of the budget, you're ready to approve the revenue side of the budget, right? Having not made any cuts to one side. So I'm going to proceed to a vote unless there's an objection right away on each of these articles. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to vote on Article 12. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here too, so Article 12 carries. Article 13 raises money for debt service, locally funded debt service that's previously been approved by the voters of this district. The dollar amount is $186,328 for the debt service payment this year. Is there a motion?
Article 13 is written.
And a second? Thank you. So Article 13 is on the floor. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands. Aye. All opposed, say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did Article 13 pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes in this room also. Article 13 carries. Article 14 requires a written ballot legally. Now, I'm making the executive decision that it is not safe to pass around pencils and gather at ballot boxes and meet with clerks. So how are we going to comply with the state law requirement of a written ballot? Those of you who attend your local town meetings know that usually you elect a moderator by written ballot. But what you actually do is you have 3 people cast ballots, right? You don't have the whole room necessarily vote by written ballot. So what we're going to do for Article 14 is I'll read the dollar amount. We're going to vote in the same manner. If it carries, okay, I'm going to ask maybe the 3 people here in the center of the room to come up and cast a written ballot if you don't mind. And that'll be our legal written ballot. Everybody understand that? Susan, does it look like people understand that in the other room?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so Article 14, which is the additional local funds to be raised, is $6,039,803 as proposed. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. All opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it look like it passed in the other room?
Passes.
Okay, it passes here too. Do you think anyone in the other room will feel left out if I just take 3 people from this room? Or you think they'll be okay?
Everyone's okay with that here.
Good, okay. If you 3 people don't mind, we have written ballots here. If you'd each take a separate pen and 1 ballot, cast your vote and maybe put it on the corner of the stage there and then I'll pick it up. How about that? And stay socially distanced, if you would. It's hard to remember that stuff, isn't it? No, just yes or no. Right there's good. Perfect. So unless things go really off the rails here, which I'm not expecting, okay. So we have 3 written ballots. The vote on Article 14 is 3-0. Article 14 carries. Now, Article 15 is really a summary of what you just did. Article 15 is the total of the 11 expenditure articles and the total of the state subsidy revenue, the additional local funds tax revenue, and the miscellaneous revenue. So the summary budget Article 15 is $51,264,940. Do I have a motion?
Article 15 is presented.
Second? All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here. Article 15 carries. There are certain state and federal programs that are not part of the school operating budget, things like Title I and other programs. And Article 16 addresses those and really is an expression of, hopefully, assent of the voters to those other budgets supported by federal and state funding. So that's what that article is. It authorizes the expenditure of federal, state grants, and other revenues that do not involve local tax dollars, okay? Do I have a motion on Article 16? Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed? Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here. Article 16 carries. Article 17 authorizes a transfer to and expenditure from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund, which was established by the voters in 2015. So if this article passes, it would authorize the board to transfer an amount that's equivalent to the unexpended balance in Article 9 at the end of this and each fiscal year thereafter to the Capital Reserve Fund, and authorize the board, upon a 2/3 majority vote, to expend from the Capital Reserve Fund amounts for capital improvements and emergency repairs to district facilities and equipment. Okay, so this is, wouldn't we all like to have a Capital Reserve Fund for when our furnace breaks in the winter, right? So that's what this is all about. Do I have a motion on Article 17? Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here also. Article 18 didn't have its own heading, but that's okay. That's the school nutrition program, okay? That program, these programs often have to run at a deficit, unfortunately. So this program, this article would authorize $1,750,000 to be expended, okay? And raise $295,000 for that program. And then if there are other miscellaneous revenues on top of the $1,750,000 estimate, those revenues, non-tax revenues, could also be expended. Do I have a motion on Article 18?
Move Article 18 is written.
And a second?
I second Article 18.
Thank you. Let's move to a vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, what'd you get?
Passes.
Passes here too. Article 18 carries. Article 19 is the adult education program. Similarly, a separate program that does require some local funding. So the total expenditure authorized for adult education would be $325,000, and the amount raised would be $171,480 in local tax dollars. And then there would be additional authority if there were miscellaneous revenues for that program, non-tax revenues, to expend that money for that program. Is there a motion on Article 19? Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed say nay and raise your hands. Susan, did it pass in your room?
Passes.
Passes here too. Article 19 carries. Before we adjourn, Bill, what's the date of the budget validation referendum? So August 11 is the second step. That's where you vote yes or no in your respective towns at the voting booths on whether you approve or disapprove what this meeting just did, what you folks just did at this meeting, okay? And so obviously everyone is encouraged to vote by absentee ballot or at the polls on that date. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. And I will call that a successful vote. Thank you so much for coming out. Stay safe, everyone. Take care.